Welcome back, everybody, to the Weather Nerds YouTube channel. I'm your host, meteorologist Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman, and this is the Stormbreaker Report. As we have the latest details on our second named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season, that being Tropical Storm Beryl. Plus, we also have a couple other areas of disturbed weather to talk about. So, let's get rolling. So we're going to first begin by taking a look at the latest from the National Hurricane Center. We're going to be focusing on, obviously, Tropical Storm Beryl, plus the two other areas of disturbed weather. Now, before we get rolling, if you could please help me out, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And that way, this is available in your YouTube feed whenever I do these updates. Not to mention, it helps the channel, and the more subscribers I get, the bigger the audience. Obviously, we want to try to get this information out to as many folks as possible. So again, we're talking on about these three systems. There's Beryl, that's going out here in the middle of Atlantic. So unusual to see that this time of year, that's for sure. Then you have this other area of disturbed weather over here near the Yucatan Peninsula that could briefly maybe become a tropical depression. And then we have another system back here on the heels of Beryl. They'll be falling in behind that system. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the latest on Beryl. As you can see, this system is moving off toward the west at about 21 miles per hour, and it's pretty far south. It's sitting at 9.8 north and 46.8 west. So right now, the maximum sustained winds are at 60 miles per hour. Hurricane Center was talking about maybe late Sunday becoming a hurricane, but we'll see. It could become a storm or hurricane a little earlier just for the fact that it's such a compact system. And typically when you get these compact systems with kind of a tight wind field, they can strengthen pretty rapidly in a short amount of time. So let's take a look at the latest satellite imagery here. As you can see, the system again continuing to move off here in a westerly direction as the storm is getting better organized. It's definitely very compact as this thing is moving off toward the west. Again, you got the islands back over here, and this right here is the island of Barbados that has a hurricane watch up right now. And I do suspect the other islands will also issue hurricane watches up a little bit later today. So now we're going to look at the latest European spaghetti plot, the ensemble, where it kind of looks at different models there and kind of projects where the system is heading. And what I'm seeing here, obviously, is we got a pretty strong area of high pressure to the north that's going to continue to steer this thing up in a westerly direction. We were kind of seeing if this thing was going to catch a trough, but the way it's looking right now, there's going to be no system to come in the eastern portion of the United States to kind of steer this thing either into the Gulf of Mexico or up the eastern seaboard, the way things are currently looking. Now let's go ahead and take a look at that main sea surface pressure model data here on the European. Look at that size of that high. Got a big high pressure out here that's going to be building back toward the west, and as it does so, it's going to mean the storm to the south are going to stay to the south and not come northward. So let's go ahead and project this forward again. We clear this out as we will take this through the next 10 days. So not only is it looking like this system's going to stay off toward the south, it looks like the one that's falling up behind it will also stay behind it. If that one becomes Chris, it should steer to the south. Now, we'll say this much. The European model does not strengthen the system very much at all on this. So once we get some additional data from the National Hurricane Center, from some of the Air Force reconnaissance data in there, as well as some other data, this model could change a little bit. But you can clearly see that this big ridging is taking place here, pushing into the south. So all these storms are going to stay down to the south and continue to move off to the west. So the next system we're going to talk about is the system that's riding behind Tropical Storm Beryl, and the 7-day outlook from the National Hurricane Center is projecting about a 60% chance that we're going to probably see this thing become a tropical depression and eventually, again, Tropical Storm Chris. So as we go and take a look at the latest satellite imagery, again, this is the storm that's following behind Beryl. You see Beryl there out in front of it. This one out here, here's Beryl. And it's this area of cluster of storms back here on the intertropical convergence zone sitting right in here. Now, it's very unusual that we're seeing this kind of activity this early, this far out in the Atlantic. Typically, you don't see stuff like this until you get well into August and getting towards September, but we're seeing it here at the end of June. So what exactly is causing all this? Well, let's take a look at the ocean heat content. Again, this kind of measures the amount of ocean heat that's out there with those above normal water temperatures in the prime development zones. And what I want you to look at here is you look at the blue line. That's kind of your average temperature there looking over the past 20 years. And you see the level that's right here. So that's kind of like around the 1st of September. And we're on that same level right now on June the 28th. So that is why we're seeing unusual activity this far out in the Atlantic and why this hurricane season is definitely something to watch. So the last system we're going to take a look at is the one that's sitting over the Yucatan Peninsula, and right now it's projected at about a 40% chance of perhaps becoming a tropical depression before it moves inland across Mexico, and that'll be going into your Sunday. So looking at the latest satellite imagery here for this morning, again, the bulk of the activity is sitting over land, and as long as it's over land, you're not going to get any kind of development. It has to move in over the waters, but once it does so, and once it gets out into this zone right in here, it could potentially develop a little bit. There does appear to be a little bit of high pressure in the upper levels of the atmosphere to kind of help be conducive for development. There's limited wind shear there for it to possibly become a depression or maybe even a storm, but I think it's more likely it'll say a tropical depression. Let's look at the latest European model here as we'll step you through this here as we watch the system slowly come out and emerge into the Bay of Campeche there, and it looks like as it gets organized, it's just arriving on the coast, so it's going to move in some very heavy rains and flooding rains once again into an area in Mexico that's been pounded already a couple times before thanks to its earlier systems, including Tropical Storm Alberto. Well, it's hard to believe we're only into the first month of the hurricane season. I guess the thing that's most concerning for me is not only the amount of activity we're seeing, but the fact that we're getting development so far out in the Atlantic. That's very telling of just how conditions are out there with the very warm waters. And again, with us being in the La Nina season, we're going to see weak wind shear overall out in the Atlantic to allow these storms to have a prime environment for development. So here is the current name list right now. Obviously, we're on Beryl. We're going to track these storms as we go through the hurricane season. And what I'm going to do is, whatever the strongest level this storm gets to, I'm going to put the category next to the name of the storm. Obviously, Beryl right now is a tropical storm, but it's going to become a hurricane, obviously, and we'll change that icon to reflect that as we go through this hurricane season so you can track along with me as we're watching the storms. Now, again, if you'd like to get these critical updates for your YouTube feed, the easiest way to do that is please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. You do those two things and it's automatically there and you'll be alerted when I have these new updates for you. Now, and you can also help with growing the channel by sharing it with your friends and give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. Got to play the game if you want to be part of the party. All right, that's it for now. You guys take it easy. We'll have another update coming your way. Look out for those hurricane shorts as well. Those tropical storm reports are updated daily on that. Until then, you guys take it easy. We'll see you next time and be good.